Okay, we are live and on air. Good. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Grapevine Wellness Show. I'm Jolyn Armstrong, your host and the founder of Grapevine Inner Wellness, where I specialize in trauma recovery and prevention, grief recovery, helping couples strengthen their relationships, and helping people heal from anxiety and depression. On this show, we have honest conversations about healing, growth, and what it means to thrive, especially after life knocks the wind out of you. I sit down with experts, survivors, and everyday people who walked through deep pain and found their way to something more. If you're looking for hope, for tools, or just a reminder that you're not alone, you're in the right place. So let's get started. I am truly honored to introduce today's guest. Natalie Stevenson is the founder of Cancer Community Clubhouse and also a metastatic breast cancer survivor. Her story is powerful, not just because of what she's lived through, but because of what she's chosen to do with it. After her diagnosis as a young single mother, Natalie found herself navigating one of the most frightening and isolating experiences a person can face. But rather than letting it break her, she used that pain to build something absolutely extraordinary, a thriving support community that helps cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers feel less alone and more empowered. I'm so impressed by that. With a background in human and family sciences and a long career in finance and investment, Natalie brings a unique blend of heart, wisdom, and resilience to her work. She's involved in national advocacy, she mentors others walking through their own cancer journeys, and is passionate about creating a space for healing, for connection, and for hope. Natalie, welcome to the show. I am so grateful that you're here.
Hi, Jolyn. So glad to be here today.
Yeah. So let's start maybe back in the beginning. Let's start with your story and what it was like for you before your diagnosis, what your life was like, and what it was like getting that diagnosis. How did cancer change things for you?
Yeah, before I had my cancer diagnosis, I actually had just come off of a very difficult time in my own personal life. I had gone through a divorce, 2008 happened, and I happened to be in real estate when that happened. So it really kind of threw my life for a loop, having to go get into a new career field and start to build up my career. And as I was working through that is when I felt a lump in my breast. I was 32 years old when I felt the lump. I did go to the doctor, and the doctor told me at that time, like, hey, it's probably nothing. It's probably just a cyst or something having to do with your hormones. But because more and more women are being diagnosed younger and younger, we should probably have you go get a mammogram and see what's there. So I did. I went and got a mammogram, and the radiologist came and talked to me. And she said, I don't see anything where you're pointing that you have a lump. I don't see anything there. So it's probably just a cyst that's coming and going. So, we don't see anything, follow up if it changes. Well, what I didn't know at that time is that the lump was so deep in my breast that it took a really long time of it growing for me to be able to feel that it had changed, So fast forward 2 years, I go back for my annual exam. My doctor feels the lump and is like, Natalie, oh my gosh, what is this? And I said, oh, that's that cyst. That's that thing that they said was nothing. Oh. And she said, you need to go back and get this checked. So I went back, and sure enough, at that point, they knew right away. It looked like cancer. He said, yeah, we do have to get the biopsy done to confirm it, but they knew it was cancer. And at that point, it was stage 3. It was in every single one of my lymph nodes at that point. So I went through, starting at 34 years old, I went through 2 years of just really horrific treatments. I had everything. I started with ACT chemo, which they call the Red Devil because it's awful. So
Sounds terrible.
I had the red devil, then went for a double mastectomy, then had radiation, then went into all kinds of reconstruction surgeries. So it wasn't actually, those 2 years weren't awful years. I did go through awful treatments, but my head the entire time was like, my son is 9 years old. There is no way I'm going to die from this thing. I'm going to live. I'm going to go through treatment. I'm going to kick cancer's butt. Like, I knew everything was going to be okay as I went through those 2 years. I call it like my survivor's attitude. I was ready to fight and to live. And even though everything was so difficult, I mean, at the worst of my chemo, I didn't have eyebrows or eyelashes. And you look like death, and I'm still working and showing up to work. Just like hindsight, I'm like, this was crazy. I shouldn't have continued to work through all of this.
Oh.
But it was very difficult to go through. But because I had this attitude of being a survivor, I really felt like I made it through just really well. I went through the whole experience really well.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I completely finished all of my treatments that I started to realize life isn't going to be going back to normal. And it's not going back anywhere near normal. I was now having to take an estrogen blocker to block the estrogen. Sometimes people confuse that and think that we're adding estrogen back in. We're not. We're blocking it from our bodies. My cancer thrives on estrogen, so they had to stop all the estrogen in my body. Well, we need estrogen. It's a hormone,
Right.
It influences so many things. It influences our cognition, our bones, our heart. There's so many mood, the mood swings that I was having to deal with. And I mean, my son, he started out at 9 years old and he just grew up with me always being in cancer treatment.
Oh.
So it was a real shocker to me that life didn't go back to somewhere where I could gain my footing. And for the next 3 or 4 years, I really started to spiral, especially emotionally. I would call the oncologist office and say, I am not doing well. Is there a therapist I can talk to? Is there somebody that can help me figure out how to live this new life, And do you know at that time, so this was back in 2013, so 12 years ago, and they just said, well, just find a therapist. You can go talk to anybody.
Yeah,
But
right?
this is different. And then not to mention, what kind of financial burden was I in at that point? So I was always a single mom and I'm taking care of my son. I'm the sole provider in our home. Now I'm hitting my max out of pockets on my insurance every single year from that time of being diagnosed. I'm having to budget $8,000 just to be able to get all this medical care.
Yeah.
And, it took away from our family vacations that year. So financially, it was incredibly stressful to go through cancer and the years following it. So there were a lot of stressors post-treatment, even my cognition. I was used to being a high-functioning person, and I didn't realize what it was like to not be.
Right. Right. Yeah. That had to have a real impact on your own, like your self-esteem, your mental health, all of that. Like you said, I'm not doing well. Yeah.
Yeah. And at work, I went back to work and here I had been able to manage so many things and all of a sudden I wasn't. And it was just very stressful post treatment.
Yeah. And you were saying that's going on for at least a couple of years post treatment before you
Yeah.
were able to kind of get your footing.
Yeah. And ultimately, so then what happened was I decided that I wasn't going to be able to tolerate this estrogen blocking medication.
Okay.
And so I stopped the medication. I
Mhm.
did go and seek out mental health care at that point, and things started to improve. I also took a trip down to Peru to take ayahuasca because I knew that that had a lot of data on it as far as being able to help people through these mental health issues.
Yeah.
So I went down and took ayahuasca in Peru, and I came back home a totally different person after that
Beautiful.
experience. I felt like the world was finally opening back up for me. Life was going to be happy again. I reconnected with my son in a way that I just hadn't been able to because of the medication.
Oh.
So I had been off of treatment for 2 years and started to have some pain in my chest area.
Mm.
I went to every practitioner out there to deal with the pain in my chest. I
Yeah.
even had a practitioner tell me it's anger. You're holding on to anger from your divorce, you know? And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, get rid of this anger.
Right.
Well, it turns out it was actually cancer that was eating away my sternum.
Oh.
So the cancer came back, got into my bone. This is where the difference is between an early stage cancer, which is stage 1 through 3. They believe they can like cure that. They don't usually use the word cure, but they can treat that.
Mhm.
And a lot of people will never have a recurrence. I stopped my treatment, and 2 years later, I did have a recurrence, and it came in the form of a 2-inch lesion going through the middle of my sternum.
Mm.
So once cancer learns how to live in a tissue that is not. So I have breast cancer. It was breast cancer that learned how to grow in my bone. And that's what makes it stage 4. So at 40 years old, I was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal metastatic breast cancer. My son at that time was 15. So that was when
Wow.
my world really turned upside down the
Yeah.
moment that I heard that. From that moment, it was very difficult for me to kind of get myself put back together.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's a little bit different, right?
Yeah,
Were you able to adopt that I'm going to fight this, I'm going to beat this any at all? No.
not
This
not at all.
Yeah.
So we talk about hope a lot, and we'll
Mhm.
talk about that later in this conversation.
Yeah.
But I did not have any hope at all.
Yeah.
My doctors had, I mean, they kind of, the thing is that they didn't know that I was going to be the woman that was still going to be alive several years later. They don't know that. And they don't know who is going to live with this disease and who is going to die from it real quickly. So when I was diagnosed stage 4, out of 10 women diagnosed at that exact same time, it was like 3 of us would be alive in 5 years out of 10. 3 would be alive in 5 years, and 1 would be alive in 10 years.
That's their estimation. That's their guess.
Yeah. So,
Statistic.
like 10% of women diagnosed with this disease actually live 10 years plus.
Yeah.
And when I started the treatments, I'm sure I had some hope as I went in. I was very scared.
Yeah.
I was mostly scared for my son. You know, I couldn't leave my son. Like that was just the biggest factor for me. I had to be here for my son.
Right.
Um, but knowing those statistics of the reality of this disease, and then I start these treatments, and the treatments, I mean, I was trying to continue to work through the treatments, but the treatments were absolutely awful.
Yeah.
I was started on 3 separate cancer treatments at that time. And I realized very quickly that I wasn't going to be able to work through these treatments. So I worked part time for about a year. And then I had to make a really, really hard, and it was devastating, the decision to let my career fall behind me And knowing that I wasn't going to be able to continue to maintain the same type of lifestyle, I realized that I needed to sell my home. I was living down in Dallas at the time, and I was born and raised in Reno, and I always really wanted to come back to Reno. Um, Unfortunately, it was cancer that kind of forced it all to put
Get
all
back
the
here
wheels in
one way or
motion.
another. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was like, okay, I have no career now. I sold my home. Like,
Yeah.
okay, literally my whole life got wiped out from underneath me. But what is the great news about that happening? Because I allowed it to happen, I made the choice, I made the conscious choice to allow this to happen because I needed to have the time, the breath, the emotional energy, the mental capacity to be able to fight so that I could be alive for my son.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I was like, you know what? There's a home is not going to mean anything if I'm dead in 2 years. It's not. So get rid of everything and let me rebuild this life where I'm on stable footing, where I'm successfully going through treatment, where I have the capacity to really take care of myself in the best kind of way that there is.
Mhm.
And that's how I ended up in Reno.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and talk about, we use the word resilience, right? And it seems like that reshaping your whole worldview and what's important to you, resilience has this kind of place in that shift. Yeah.
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 And I think it's so important to help others understand that resilience doesn't mean that you went from here and now you're here. That's
Yeah.
resilience. No, I was showing resilience even as I was in my depths of despair. I was showing resilience by connecting with a group that was available down in Dallas. There was a support community. And it was my stage 4 oncologist said, Natalie, you need to go get connected with this community.
Yeah.
And I thought, why did nobody tell me that this community existed before? Here I was struggling. The doctors and the medical office knew that I was struggling. I had no idea that there was a support community around where people were getting exactly what I needed, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So being a part of that community, I just remember some days barely being able to get out of bed and making it to this stage 4 support group. But man alive, that was the lifeline that I needed.
Mm.
I was able to sit in a group with other women who had metastatic breast cancer, who had been on my treatments previous. There was a lady that had just finished one of my treatments. Her cancer progressed, so she moved to a different treatment. And she just kept telling me, drink tons of water, flush that stuff out of your system as fast as you can, drink tons of water and rest.
Yeah.
I don't think I had ever rested in my entire life. And
That's
she's like,
foreign.
seriously, she's like, you have to rest. Your
Yeah.
body can no longer make it for 8 hours without taking breaks. And that was just like the best advice for me, was to not beat myself up because I couldn't keep doing, just to say, okay, I have to rest now, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Would you agree that, God bless our doctors, right? Those that administer these treatments that are so awful for us, but also help us to live.
Yeah,
But the advice and the guidance and the support that you got from other people who have been in your shoes and they're like that kind of those practical tips that you got, like how beneficial was that for you? It had to.
that's where it totally is all at. So our
Yeah.
medical professionals, and you're right, without cancer treatments, I would not be around today
Right.
talking about survivorship. We wouldn't have this boatload of survivors that exists now if we didn't have those treatments or access to those treatments. It is because of novel therapies that have come out that I have been able to keep my cancer under control
Mhm.
because of that. But these doctors are so highly educated in exactly how cancer works and how these treatments are going to work, but they're not as I'm not sure that they even learn it in school, the survivorship aspect, So
Right.
basically, you go to the cancer center to kill your cancer, and then you go to a community center to heal from the effects
Yes.
of of that cancer treatment, or of what you're currently going through or what you went through. And then you come to a community center to help sustain you as you move on to this new normal. we all hate
Right.
we all hate the new normal. Like, that
Yeah.
word is, we don't want to have a new normal, but that's how we
And
do it.
yet,
We do it with help of others around us.
absolutely. And I just, playing devil's advocate, because I know I hear over and over again how maybe even cold feeling the doctors are about this. Like, we're just gonna, I'm saving lives, I'm curing cancer, like all of that. And they don't have the heart for the human being behind the cancer, right? But I mean, on one hand, yeah, that kind of stinks that they don't get the education, or that they don't have that kind of mentality about them. And yet maybe that's necessary for them to be able to do what they do, right? So, okay, that's their lane. And helping us with the new normal, helping survivors and all of that, those kinds of things has to come from somewhere else. Like, we can't
Mm-hmm.
expect that to come from them, right?
No, no,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
what I try to express to the oncologists and the doctors is, we understand that you don't have time to get into, like, how is their, personal life going, and where are their stressors, and blah, blah,
Right.
blah. How's their sex life? Like, you don't have time to get into all of that. And we understand that. But it's so easy to take a brochure, to take a flyer when somebody is sitting in front of you, and to say, go here to get the mental health, go here to get the exercise rehabilitation, go here to get the peer support, go here to help your mentality be able to stay in this game while you're going through it. So no, my expectation is never that we need them focused. There are so many there are so many new treatments coming out. The overwhelm is just crazy in the cancer world, staying on top of all of that. Yet a patient is looking to their doctor to for any advice. We all ask our doctors, what should we be eating? What's our nutrition thing? And they say, oh, eat a healthy diet. There's like,
Thanks.
there's so many more ways that they can help us, just by saying, go here. They're doing these holistic programs that are hitting all of these areas that are going to support you as you go through these treatments. And then guess what's going to happen, Jolene? Then the patients aren't going to be taking up their time from the doctors. They're going to
Exactly.
be, yeah, they're going to be dealing with what's going on, and then show up in the doctor's office with very specific asks and requests, because they're no longer looking to the oncologist to fulfill the mental health aspects that come along with the cancer experience.
I love that. They're essentially, like, from the physician's point of view, they're better patients. They're,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Totally.
exactly, exactly. And how infuriating for you when you called them saying, hey, I have this need, and they had it right there, and you didn't
Yeah.
hear from them. Ugh,
And that I didn't hear it, I would
yeah.
never heard about the community. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Can you, is there a point through this journey that you can kind of point to where you shifted from just surviving to really beginning to find kind of meaning, purpose? Yeah, moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. So when I was in Dallas, and part of this support community that really shifted my entire experience, and I thought everybody should have a community like this. It shouldn't just be the people whose doctor tells them about it. Everybody should have access to a community like this.
Yeah.
And I said I had to walk away from my career. That I was a little bit of a workaholic. And so it just took away so much. It was so devastating for me to walk away from this thing that I had built and built up so much value in my own life, right? For my own person, I felt valuable because of the skills that I had.
Right.
And then just walking away from it, and you're like, okay, where am I now? Where's my value now? I'm sick all the time. I'm super fatigued. A lot of days I would get up, I would work out, and that would be the extent of what I could accomplish that day when I was in stage 4 treatment, you know? Oh, by the way, I still am. I call it when because there was the worst of the worst stage 4 treatment at the beginning. So anyways, when I came to Reno, I started looking for my people. Where are the other women who are in treatment for the same disease? And I didn't find, there's a handful, like a resource here, a resource there. Some of them I wasn't even really eligible for. And I thought, where are my people at? And I needed something to help me feel like I had purpose and meaning still. And so I started to, because I had come from this support community, I knew what it looked like. I had done so much research over that year and a half that I was only part-time and kind of making all of these tough decisions in my life and things. I had been doing all of my own research on how can I help myself get through this. Yeah. And I found loads of information on mindfulness was a really big one for cancer survivors, to learn mindfulness and to do the meditation. And even exercise and fitness helps to restore some of that fatigue. And yet, like, none of my doctors had told me any of that. So I just went and researched it all. And I was like, oh my gosh, this information is here. Yeah. How we can help people succeed in survivorship. And so I just took all that knowledge and I created what's called the Cancer Community Clubhouse. It's a community-based organization in Northern Nevada where patients, survivors, long-term survivors, care partners, and we even open it up to family and friends. This cancer is not something that only affects the survivor. Right. It's affecting our family, our children, our spouses, and even our friendships change as we go through cancer. So we want to make sure that our community organization is open to as many of those care partners as possible with the programs that we run. Yeah. But that's kind of where the resilience, I guess, really kind of started to happen. Did I have micro resiliences all through that experience? Totally.
Yeah, that's it, right? It wasn't like a light bulb. It was, hey, a need that you had and then resources you found and went, wait a minute, more people need to know about this. And
yeah. And then just went to work and started building a community here.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. So I love that. I love the clubhouse. Let's talk about, you've shared a bit about kind of the resources that you've compiled and that exist in the clubhouse, but what might somebody be surprised about in some of the things that you offer through the Cancer Community Clubhouse?
I think really the coolest thing that we have the ability to kind of be able to offer is we have about 200 visits each month at the clubhouse. So I'm having a lot of interaction with survivors and what they need, what their needs are, So while the programs that we have ongoing are kind of the major buckets in survivorship, you have your exercise and nutrition, you have your peer support, your mental health, your wellness practices like the mindfulness. And then I think where people might be surprised are the educational workshops that we like to offer. Mm-hmm. So those vary just according to what I hear people talking about. Sexual health is a really big deal for a lot of survivors. But in our culture, that's not something that we really openly talk about. And even though oncologists are kind of taught how to have these conversations about sexual health, it's very uncomfortable in the clinical space. So last year we did a sexual health seminar that was very well attended. We have a death and dying. We have done a death and dying seminar. We have 2 death doulas. Some people haven't even heard of death doulas, but they're people that help you and the family to prepare for a smooth transitional death. And it doesn't even have to be like, I'm not at the point where I'm dying, but I want to go and learn about what are the regrets that people have on their deathbed? What types of things can you plan for before the time comes so that you're free of burden, when the time comes? So we'll have that coming up in a few months. I've been so grateful to you to offering breath work. I mean, breath work is such a cool practice, and we've all heard about it. It's kind of similar to these like sound baths and things that we can do to calm our nervous system. But even the breath work, right? To have that on our calendar occasionally. Mm-hmm. We also do herbal workshops. We have an herbalist who comes in once a month. We'll mix teas or bath salts or bath bombs. And it's just kind of a fun opportunity to also learn about how a variety of herbs can support us. Nothing that we do is so much herb that it's people with cancer are always nervous when they hear herbalism, like, is it okay for me to eat this or to take this?
Right.
And it won't mess with my treatment. We don't ever get into an amount that would cause that, but we do this just more for general support.
Yeah.
So those are kind of just some of the interesting finds that pop up on our calendar throughout the year.
That's so cool. I need to get into one of the herbal workshops you do for sure.
Yeah. Well, you know what's so cool? So we did an herbal workshop where she had like 3 or 4 different blends of herbs, like a good morning tea and a stomach tea. So I think every person in that class made a digestive tea to take home. And that really, like, for us, it perked our ears. We were like, oh, every single one of these people is dealing with digestive problems, which is very common across the board on cancer treatments. Yeah. So our next tea blending class is going to be specific for gastrointestinal teas nice. To support digestion and all of that. But what I love about this being a small organization, a community-based, is that I can hear from the people, what are you interested in? What do you need? And then we go out and we try to find the professionals who can come in and facilitate that and share their knowledge with all of our survivors.
I love that. And how hands-on you are in that process is it's amazing. And I'm sure why this clubhouse has been such an amazing thing for the community, right? Your efforts there in finding out what the community needs and then making that happen. You did that for yourself, and now you're doing that for your community. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me, so your first experience with a kind of community like this, an organization, something like what you have here in the Northern Nevada area, you first were kind of introduced to that in Texas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How is Cancer Community Clubhouse different from other organizations or support groups like this?
Locally, we're different than than any other type of group or support group, just because you can come to one place in the community, not have to go back to the cancer center where you kind of received your trauma.
Yeah.
That people can go into the community and help to kind of restore their nervous systems. The other thing is really to hit all 5 of the umbrellas that I've talked about, the mental health and the fitness and the nutrition and to kind of get every single one of those under one space.
Yeah.
We're the first ones in Northern Nevada to really be a holistic type of organization like that. There are some organizations, big hospitals that have, the community I came from was called Cancer Support Community, and there are several affiliates nationwide. So if somebody is listening to this and going, but wait a second, I live in Denver, look up Cancer Support Community, because you'll find affiliates all over the country.
Oh, good.
So Cancer Support Community, really, that's their mission, is to provide all of those mental health, and they do like yoga and they have art, and we do several things that they also do. But to find a real umbrella organization like that is kind of tricky. So we're very lucky now. And really, it's only because we've had so much support in the community, like people going, oh my gosh, I had cancer and I had nobody.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to financially support what you're doing so that you can continue to grow. Of course, we weren't hitting all 5 umbrella points 2 years ago. You know, we received a real generous donation from a funder to fund our mental health program. And that just happened last year. And since then, we've been able to just explode this mental health program. And it is changing people's lives.
Yeah.
So it's awesome to see it.
I mean, I'm super impressed. So those who are watching or listening may or may not have had the opportunity to go into your space and see what an amazing space it is. But in order for you to hit those 5 umbrellas, right, you've taken a space and created a couple of different kind of unique areas within that space. Do you mind talking about that a little bit? How you
Sure.
created like the gym aspect and then the beautiful like homey space that you have there too.
Yeah, when you walk into CCC, the first thing you walk into is almost like a living room setting. We've got tons of plants everywhere, comfy couches and comfy chairs. So it's really, we want it to be a home-like space so that, you know, it's completely opposite of walking into a cancer center. So you walk into the cancer center, you smell the smells and everything's white and crisp and not homey at all. It's hard and cold. And so you walk into CCC and you just feel like you're at home immediately.
Yep.
We were just so lucky once we got the space. We've only had our permanent space for a little bit over a year now. Before, we were kind of renting space around the community to hold programs. So for us to have our actual clubhouse space that is only dedicated to CCC programs is just awesome. So in that home-like space, we do our support groups, we have our mental health groups, people just sit out there and have coffee and chat. And the community came together. Everybody, Habitat for Humanity donated furniture for us, and a local organization called the Katie Grace Foundation. They donated so many of these pieces that really helped us create this home-like space. Nice. Then as you walk back to the next section, we have a full gym. We don't have big weight equipment and stuff like that, but we do have gym flooring and lots of mirrors. And Home Depot actually gave us a grant to install all of our gym, which was absolutely incredible because when we moved into the space, I knew that we were going to do fitness, but I didn't really have the money to be able to just go and transform something into a gym. And so I was really grateful to have made the connection with Home Depot. And it was so funny, the manager, he said, Natalie, we can give you this grant. We're so excited. We'd love to get behind the project. The only rule is it has to be our volunteers who install it. I was like, okay.
You twisted my arm, right?
Right? Like, thank you. So they came out in one day, and I think in about 3 hours, put mirrors up on both sides, put gym flooring down. We had tons and tons of equipment, workout equipment that was donated to us. So within a matter of about 3 months of taking the lease of this space, we had that home-like space created. Then we had the gym space created. In the gym, we can set up tables and chairs to do our educational events. And then we have a separate section at the very back with some desks, some office desks, and then just a variety of gym storage for all of our gym equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, such an amazing thing that you've brought together. Yeah, your vision, you have had help from the community because this is, an amazing thing you're putting together and everyone
Yeah.
wants to be a part of it, right?
Yeah.
But your vision here has just, yeah, what a gift to this.
And even the beauty of the space when you walk in, that is not me. Anybody that knows me is like, I am a black and white person. I'm not, I think in numbers. That's how I think. I'm not.
Uh,
So I just tell people anything that is beautiful in our space or our
yeah.
flyers, our brochures, people are like, wow, these look great. Our social media. Michelle does all of the stuff that looks good.
Shout out
And
to
then
Michelle.
we had one of our members who was helping when we were finding the furniture and stuff for all of that space and helping kind of design it, I would say. I was kind of just like, hey, we have a space. We can use any type of chairs. It doesn't matter. And she was like, no, Natalie, no.
Bring in folding chairs. It's going to be fine.
Where, like, to me, I was just like, oh, as long as people can sit. She's like, no, things have to match. So she made sure that our chairs matched and looked good. And,
Oh,
so
bless
I
her heart.
had lots and lots of help
Yeah,
making the space what it is today. It would
nice.
not have looked like that if it was just Natalie doing it.
Well, I'm glad you have the power behind you that you do.
Yeah.
And yeah, shout out to all those people who have been such a big part of that and contributed so
Mhm.
much. So yeah, I love that. Right, right back to the power of community, right?
Yeah,
How important that
absolutely.
is and how many different ways people are showing up to support each other through this,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, you just had on one of the coldest summer days in recent memory in Reno, you had your field day event, which was beautiful and amazing in spite of the obnoxious cold weather. You want to talk about that
Yeah.
briefly?
Yeah, every year, and thanks to the Nevada Cancer Coalition, they were one of my first connections that I made when I came into Reno. And I was kind of pitching this idea of survivorship, a community survivorship program to various places.
Mhm.
And I connected with the Nevada Cancer Coalition, and they were like, oh my gosh, Natalie, they were just fully behind me.
Nice.
They had already had their eye on survivorship and knew that we needed to create something survivorship oriented.
Mhm.
So they were really, really supportive of kind of getting us going. Anyways, at the very first meeting that I had with them, they started to bring up that the first Sunday of every June is National Cancer Survivors Day. And is anybody, I was on like a nurse navigator's call, and what are people doing for Cancer Survivors Day? I had never heard about it, so I had no idea. But I thought, you know what? That seems like a good thing that a cancer survivor organization should put on.
Yeah.
And so we started that very first year. We put on our National Cancer Survivors Day out at Bartley Ranch. It was very windy that morning, but it was the first Sunday in June.
Yeah.
So that was our first Survivors Day. Really, the whole goal of Survivors Day is just to kind of raise awareness that um, to kind of honor the survivors or the people that are going through treatment. That word survivor is interesting. People in treatment don't think they are a survivor. They don't resonate with that word survivor.
Mhm.
And so there's also a little bit of education around what does it mean to be a survivor. And the definition of a cancer survivor is from the moment you're diagnosed. So anybody who hears the words, you have cancer, from that moment forward through the rest of your life, you're considered a survivor. And survivorship is what happens with your life in under that whole umbrella. So I had, even this year, I had somebody go, well, I wasn't going to go to Survivor's Day because I'm not a survivor. And I was like, yes, you are.
We're here.
You've been
Yeah.
diagnosed. That makes you a survivor. It's for everybody from that moment of diagnosis. So each year we just put on a big party. Last year we did like an 80s dance party and had a really awesome band perform. And this year was the first year that we ventured into the outdoors again. And so we planned it a little bit later in June. So hopefully we would have some good weather. And the wind gods decided to make a change in our weather forecast right at the last minute. But ultimately, once a year, it's almost like a family reunion for everybody who's been affected by cancer in our community. People are like, people go back to their lives and they're back to full-time work and all of that. They come to Survivor's Day, they see all of their cancer friends. They're hanging out. Hey, what's going on? And it's like a big family reunion for everybody. So it's an exciting event to kind of plan. And so this year was our 5th year doing it. And I just felt so grateful that 5 years ago, we decided to like, hey, we're going to do a Survivor's Day event. And now it has become this annual thing, just to celebrate people.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, there were a lot of people braving that wind. And so I found myself being angry at the calm skies the next day.
Next day.
Why?
I know. Everybody is saying that. They're like, I woke up the next day and it was fine.
Yeah. But that's, you know what? It was well worth braving some chilly wind to be there and witness. It was my first event this year with you, and you're right about that. The family reunion feel of it was really amazing. And then, I mean, the all of the different things that you put together, you and the team, I'm sure, put together. And again, another show of community support. The raffle items just that were donated there. It was just, such a cool event. And I always look for your events, see what's up with you. So
We do have a couple. We have a Think Pink fundraiser that is a boot camp that a young realtor in town actually hosts that one to benefit our Cancer Fit program. So she raises money specifically for a scholarship to offset some of the costs for Cancer Fit. So Think Pink is coming up, and then we have Dance for Hope, which are locally trained dancers. Man, these dancers just come out and it's the funnest event, Jolene. You have to attend Dance for Hope.
I will be there. Yes,
it's so much fun. But even
does everybody have to dance? Is that what this is, or no?
No,
okay, good.
You don't have to, but they make it so easy that you can, know. But it is kind of a dance along situation. But we certainly have people that are kind of out on the outskirts, just watching. And Myra, who plans, Myra and Carly pretty much plan and coordinate that whole event for us, and just the power and energy that they bring to that. And both of them have been affected by cancer now. And so it means even more, when they've each had to deal with their own cancer situation also.
Yeah. So fantastic that this is their kind of moving forward as well, right?
Yeah.
And that helping others is such people that are coming along that path behind you, that act of helping those and mentoring those and helping guide the way for them is such a beautiful next step in healing. I love to see people who have been there saying, okay, I'm reaching back now and pulling someone else forward. So organizing those kinds of things is such a good thing. Such a good thing. Yeah. Well, let's talk about, you mentioned earlier mindfulness and how important that is while through the entire journey. It's one thing that I really focus on with my private clients as well, right? But let's look at some of the things that you've kind of delved into, that you're practicing now: mindfulness, meditation, qigong, all of those things. How have they played a role in your healing and in the way you support others now?
Yeah. Mindfulness was my, it was like my, I don't know how to term it, but like my iron rod. It was something that was my only way to get back to something that I could hold on to,
Yeah.
was meditation for me.
Mhm.
So when I was first diagnosed stage 4, I had kind of started actually after I went to Peru. Before I was diagnosed stage 4, I did start a little bit of a mindfulness practice. I started meditating, doing some yoga, mindfully yoga. And it wasn't until I was diagnosed stage 4 that it was almost like I couldn't even get through my day until I was able to calm my mind.
Yeah.
You wake up when you're, thrown into this terminal diagnosis. We don't know if you're going to live 6 months. We don't know if you're going to live 2 years. We don't know if you're going to live 10 years.
Yeah.
And how do we cope with it's this existential dread or this existential, I had to just face my, my life,
Yeah.
and that I may not have control over the fact that my life is going to be cut short. So I just remember waking up every single day and sitting in my chair and doing a meditation. And sometimes it would be a 5 minute, sometimes it would be like 20 minutes. I did meditation on every topic from coping with anxiety. The biggest one for me, Jolynn, was it was probably about 2 years into my stage 4 diagnosis. And I just really okay, I was coping okay, but I just wasn't feeling like my life was missing something, and I felt like because I was on these awful treatments, it was hard to grasp what it was. And so anyways, I just finally realized that I'm not afraid to die, but I am afraid to die in cancer treatment,
Mm.
because people who die in cancer treatment are really suffering. And
Yeah.
I just didn't want to suffer when I died.
Mm.
And so I actually started to do a meditation on death. And I started to meditate on death each day, meditate on death. And what really came to me from doing that was being able to attach to the energy with which I wanted to die,
Mm.
and to feel like, okay, if I can hold on to this energy in my death,
Yeah.
then I'm gonna go on to what I believe is next, and I'm gonna match that energy instead of being in suffering and dying in suffering, and then going on to what I believe. That wasn't what I wanted. And so meditation helped me cope with my own end of life. And after that happened, I really started living.
Yeah.
I really was able to be like, okay, now I know how I want to die. So I don't care if it comes in a year. I don't care if it comes in 10 years. I know where I want to be, and this is how I want to die. Now let me go out and live my life. And it just opened up this door to not have to be consumed with the fact that I was living with a terminal illness, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, meditation shifted my entire existence and my entire ability to cope with this.
Wow. Wow. And I wonder if, you're spending your time in fear of death, of the kind of death that you don't want,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when you have this diagnosis, you have the statistics right in front of you, right? And there is that kind of hopelessness about that. Right.
Yeah.
And maybe what you're describing through that is that kind of shift from hopeless to hopeful.
Mm,
Do you agree with that? Or
I
at least it
really love
opened the
that.
door for it, right?
Yeah, no, because it's true that about a year after I had meditated on death and had that whole experience,
Yeah.
we actually did a survivor's day where we had people, we had speakers speakers came in and talked. So we had a mental health therapist who gave a talk. I talked and I spoke about survivorship and really what I think is most important for people to be able to get through their survivorship is kind of clearing their plate of all these extra duties and burdens. Like your plate has to be empty to fill it with only the most meaningful things, clearing your plate. And also in that talk, oh gosh, I just slipped the hopeful. Mm-hmm. It was all about hope, and that you have to have hope. So I've started using hope so much, and I don't think so. I was definitely hopeless in the first couple of years of going through it. Yeah. But then learning about hope, that hope isn't the way that it used to be for me. It wasn't like, oh, I hope one day I'll, have hit this point in my career. I hope one day my child will be like this, or I hope this. No, my hope became, I hope that today I can physically move my body because that's going to make me feel better by the end of the day. I hope. So it was like, my hope wasn't to be cancer free and go back to the old life that I wanted that. Yes, I would have done anything to not have this be my life experience.
Right.
But hope is what gets us through. And we might have to shift the focus of what we hope for. Like I can't just hope for never being in cancer treatment again. That's not real. But I can hope that as I'm going through my life situation, that I can help and walk the path with other people who are also going through it. Mm-hmm. I can hope for the day that I can tolerate my treatments a little bit better. I can hope for the day that I'm going to be able to go out. Like I can hope that I'm going to be able to go hiking with my son on that hike that we used to do when he was younger. You know what I mean? It's all about like shifting hope, and hope is active. It has to be real. It has to have that power behind it, right? If we're just kind of hope without action isn't really real. So we talk about hope so much, and hope is definitely like one of those pillars in my life that I cling to get through.
Oh, such an inspiration, Natalie. Thank you for that. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And what a gift to all those who come in contact with you, especially through this experience, right? Oh, yeah. We have chatted our way through our time together. I want to let the audience know, I'll open this up for questions. So if you have questions for Natalie, please type those into the Q&A box, and I'll watch for those. But in the meantime, Natalie, in our last few minutes together, what do you hope that people take away from your story and your work with Cancer Community Clubhouse?
Oh my gosh. My hope is that people will walk through the doors. There are so many things that happen when you're going through cancer, and sometimes I think the thought of walking into a community where maybe you don't even know anybody yet, it's kind of hard. You don't know. I've heard people say, well, I didn't know what I was walking into. I was afraid that your groups, everybody's going to be crying or they're going to be on their deathbed. And all I can do is I'm trying just to hold on, and I can't have anybody else kind of add to that and bring me down. If there are any survivors out here that are thinking that, please just walk through the doors. Our support groups are not people just on their deathbeds, like angry and can't cope with this. No, they're these, the people that are coming to our organization are people who do have hope, and the people that are sharing it with everybody around them also. I have met some of my best friends have come from being in this community. The people are just so supportive, and we're the ones living our daily lives with this. So we understand how it is affecting our personal relationships, our families, like the heartbreak of the mothers, right? Because their children, if from any angle you bring the kids into it, and it's like our moms' hearts are just breaking, right?
Yeah.
So being able to be with the other moms, being able to be with the other people that are kind of in the same cohort, it just can shift your experience so much that I really hope that people will not just go with what they assume our community might look like, and take the first step, walk through those doors, because you are going to, you're going to find something that you never had in your life up to that point in your survivorship.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's not all tears.
No.
It's supporting with hope and with a vision forward, right? And you
Yeah.
provide such a wide range of things. I can't imagine that there's not something for everyone there,
Yeah.
right? So, well, Richard says, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. He says, I had no idea you were facing all of this over the past few years. It's so wonderful to see you land on your feet and founding CCC. So awesome.
Thanks,
Richard.
Richard. Richard's an old coworker from like 20 years ago.
Well, there's Richard. See how we can connect people here.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so how can people get involved? How can people walk through the door? How can they support the clubhouse or connect with you and your resources?
Sure. The website is the best place to be, cancercommunityclubhouse.org. On our homepage, it has a list of each of our kind of pillar programs that we feed all of our calendar into each of these programs. They can find my information, my contact information that's on there, to be able to get involved. People who are living here locally in Northern Nevada, on our calendar, we do have new participant orientations that are, kind of throughout the month. You can RSVP to one of those orientations. That's the first way to get started, so that we can go over all of the programs, how each of them work, kind of who's invited to what, those sort of things. It's just a good way to get an introduction to me, and then I take a tour of the clubhouse basically with the new participants. So that's the best way to get started. And then also on our website, we do have most of our fundraisers are in there under the donate and sponsor. Any corporate, we do get corporate sponsors for Survivors Day and Dance for Hope and Think Pink. We need corporate sponsors to be able to hold those events. And then, of course, individuals, a lot of individuals generously give to our organization, and also foundations and places that offer grants. That's the way. One thing I didn't mention this whole time, Jolynn, is that everything we do at the clubhouse is free of charge or at a very low cost. I know that the burden of having to pay out of pocket after I had hit my max out of pockets every year, I wouldn't have been able to pay or to afford, right, to be able to do all these extra things. So it's really important to me that everything that we do is free of charge. We do charge for our Cancer Fit program, but we have donors who provide scholarship for that. So we rely heavily on our generous donors to make this whole community tick. And I'm just so grateful for all of them coming through so generously the way they have.
Oh, yes. Yes. Same. Right. And I'm sure everyone that is able to take advantage of what you offer feels the same as well. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. Well, Mindy says, thanks for having this webinar as a resource. And yeah, Natalie, thank you so much for being here, for sharing really such a powerful personal story with us, and your strength and your heart, your commitment to helping others is truly inspiring. And I know this conversation will bring hope to so many people who need it right now. And just thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Jolynn, for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay. And thanks everyone for watching or listening, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Grapevine Wellness Show. If you found it helpful, be sure to like and subscribe and share it with someone who might need to hear it. If you're struggling with trauma or grief, anxiety, depression, or if your relationship is struggling, maybe along with some of those things, I want you to know that there is a path forward and you don't have to walk it alone. Visit grapevineinnerwellness.com to learn more about the work that I do and how we can work together. And I'll see you next time.